Okay, guys, how we doing? Here we are on the 7th of August now, and crypto day here. So we did the polling here, and Ethereum was pretty much, well, boy, you guys were spread all over the place. But Ethereum looks like linked to the dollar tether here. So there's a few here. We'll get a couple done here. Now we're kind of picking up here in Ethereum where we left off. So I've got, this is a 4 hour of the dollar, of Ethereum to the dollar on Coinbase. And as we left it before, we're getting some degree of some mixed signals here. Now we have, of course, the initial set of median lines here. We get a failure to make the median line, right? Sign of weakness that we can't get there, and it implies a move equal to or greater than the move that failed to get there. So, this is pretty much, getting fully retraced. But now we come down here. It looks like the structure has been a factor here as we stall here. What, of course, you're going to look for any sort of fib relationship as well to see if any algo participation here was likely. And quickly note here the hole in the volume profile is we don't have market acceptance here. So we come down. So here's resistance. Now we become support. So you kind of want to see this start to move here towards a potential, well, at this degree here, we still have the potential for this to be seeking the fifth here at this degree, right? So it's probably open to some interpretation here as to whether or not we're done here. So here are the mixed signals. The subdivision on the way up is really challenging to get this to finish here because... So what you want to do, right, so your eye looking at it, you want to put the 3, the 4 here. You want this to get done, right? You're thinking, oh, okay, well, that would make sense because at that point, then we can work from the low to the pivot high here, and look what we've done, right to the 618. So this retrace here, the fact that we have this structure here right at the golden zone, so you look at that and you go, well, that's much more characteristic of a second. But therein lies the problem. So it just you can't get the subdivision to play. I've looked at in multiple combinations here, and we've looked at some alternates over since December. We've had several alternates that we've looked at here, but you can't get this to finish here. You can't get from here to here. You can't get an impulse to finish. Right, so obviously you'd want to go 1, 2, but you can't get the subdivision to work. Right, it would be ideal if you could go 1, 2, 3, or even if we had a potential diagonal here, but the length of the swings just doesn't support it. So with your Elliott hat on, you got to lean into the possibility here that we have just a deep 4. Right, we don't overlap the 1, so technically, per Elliott rule set here, we don't invalidate. We can get a clear impulse here off of the 2 low on the assumption here that we've gone A into a double top here. So we essentially a flat here. So we get an A, B, C down for our 2. Now what's additionally kind of causing you to pause for a second here. If we come from the 2 through the 3, we get a very, very slight break. I mean, it is a couple of ticks. Right, invalidation, right? So a couple of ticks is enough, but if we pull back to the absolute low, then now we're still holding. So therein lies again, it's not that we invalidate here, but this would be much more characteristic of a second. But again, right, it's just how much weight do you want to give the Elliott that you can't get an impulse to finish here. You can't get the impulse here if this is the 1, 2. Right, you can't. If you go 1, 2, 1, 2, right, it's all good. But you can't go 1, 2. I tried through multiple times. It doesn't fly. I tried every combination I could come up with. You can't get it to work. So all right. So how much weight do you want to give the Elliott? Well, if this still is potentially a 4, but if that's going to be a 4, so sorry guys. You kind of got to look at that and go, well, if that's the 1, 2, and right now, I'm tentatively putting the 1, 2 on that because at this point, this could just as easily, you got to consider the alternate here that something else is happening because we could certainly have a 1, 2, 3. This looks a lot like a 4, and we're going down for a 5 before something bigger happens that would bring us down, something along those lines here. Now we're back down challenging those lows. So if you just lay it out in terms of, I'm going to take this off here, and I would, again, encourage you to keep that on somewhere. But if this is the 1, 2, then you kind of look at that and go, well, how am I going to how am I going to get up there? If this is the 1 and the 2, and, you know, most, right, I could reasonably, right, without being, you know, just smoking too much hopium, the reasonably, if you wanted to project here off of the length of that as the 1. So if this is correctly identified as the 1, 2, 2618, the length of the 1, that's about as far as you can go with that before you're really just not being realistic about the potential. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't do that, but just statistically, you'd be much more inclined to go, well, that's about as far as I can see that going here, unless something unusual is happening, which would put you back up here. So just thinking of those typical relations. So if this is 1, 2, and we're going to get the full push here to a 2618, a little push back here. You know, you look at that and you go, well, if I'm going to get up there, if that's going to be, could that be my 5? It's kind of, you know, setting up for a double top, just based on typical swing size relationship. No, it's not, wouldn't be crazy. So again, part of what has you pausing here in terms of how high this can go is the depth of the retracement. So if this is going to play as a 1, 2, 3 down for the 4, the probability is reduced of a new high given the depth of the retracement. That's why we prefer, right, always, right, an Elliott trader's looking for that third between the 23.6 and the 38.2. That gives you that shallowness of retracement that sets up that kind of move. But given the depth here, it reduces the probabilities that we're going off to substantially new highs. So what's the other thought? Well, if we're going to get right, so you're stretching a little bit. So then you think, okay, well, maybe this would just be 1, 2 of a bigger 5. But then the symmetry starts to fall apart in terms of what's reasonable here to project for the 5. So again, just kind of typical wave relationships here. If we take the length of the 1 projected from the proposed 4, again, you know, 2618, yeah, that would be, could it do that? Sure, right? Sure we could do that. We're going to need a fairly big push in the 5 here, so you're going to have, considering the length of the 1, it's possible, right? But it just doesn't look great. We're not off to a great start on it. 1, the depth of the 4, if that's going to hold, is the 4, and then the relatively small size of the 1 and the depth of the 2, right? So you got a lot of things here just saying, but you sure wouldn't script that if you were looking to buy into the 4 to the 5. This isn't what you'd hope for here. So then you got to look at it and go, all right, well, maybe I'm overanalyzing. So let's go down to a smaller time frame and see how good this 1, 2 looks, because right now it's really a stretch to say, oh, we've gone impulsive. Oh, let's go to 30-minute. Well, yeah, I can get a 5 there, and it's a deep 2, but I can let me push this up a little bit. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And it would be an impulse, right? So note here, we don't overlap. So I can get the impulse, and then the A, B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's all there. So I've got a contender here for a 1, 2. I don't have a great launch here for the potential third. So your best case here, if we're trying to label this, maybe you can go 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, let's not overlap, right? So it's got it. Let's change that. Let's go to sub and let's come over here. We'll go to green. Okay, so this 1 is going to be important, because if this is going to hold as a 1, 2, God darn it. If this is going to hold as a 1, 2, well then if I'm clinging to the idea that this might be my 3, well, okay, so first thing, this can't overlap. But then again, we come back to the typical wave relationship. So right, does this look like that's going to be the 3 to my 1, 2? If this is the 1, 2, 3, now that may fly here. So if that's my 1, that's my 2. All right, well there's your high probability zone for the 3. So okay, maybe some sort of funky expanded B. I don't know that I'd necessarily go there this quickly. Here you're going to have to work through that subdivision here, because this needs to be an impulse if we're going to stay with an impulse. Now, if this is 1, 2, we could have a leading diagonal here on the assumption that we were going to get a 1, 2 of the larger degree 3. So you can't disqualify it if we overlap the 1, but you'd prefer to see this hold. So just standard ops here, just trying to get a handle on the count. So if this is correct, and that's the 2 to the 4. Well, you know, kind of, again, it's the depth here is not ideal. You'd prefer to see that 50 hold, but you can get the AB. Shit, good luck with the C in there. Trying to pull a C out of that. Well, man, the 1, 2, right? So right off the bat, you're thinking, oh, 3, 3, 5, but that B would be very shallow for that. So you're already stretching a little bit. So it's just full of problems, right? It just, as much as I want to look for the buy opportunity here, I think you're stretching a little bit here to try and force something. Right, so I know, I understand. So the thinking is, oh, well, shit, I don't want to miss it if it's going to go here. So what's the problem? Well, we've got, so first problem, how are you going to count that? I mean, 1, 2, oh, man, it's, so already you got problems here. So you can work backwards and go, well, there's your ABC. I can get the 5. So if I'm working backwards, can I do this? 2, 3, 4. Well, that's not much of a 5. All right, let's pull this down here. Let's go over to white so we can see a little bit better. Well, okay, so let's pull back one here. So from the 3 to the 4, okay, that's right where you'd like to see it. Let's pull it from the 2. All right, 38, we're a little shy of the algo target. That wasn't much of a 5. So, okay, so can I get, Jesus, can I get, so I've got to get an impulse here. So you'd have to go 1, 2. Can you even get that to fly? So can you get a 1, 2, 1, 2? Man, you're pushing it here. Yeah, I don't think you can get it. All right, if you keep working through the subdivision, can you get an impulse right here? I don't think it's there. Now, maybe well, let's look here. So I'm just my eyes kind of looking for alternates here. Do we have the possibility here this is incorrectly labeled here? So we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Jesus, so maybe you could do it this way. Let's push this off. 4. So then working backwards, can I get this to fly? Here, 1, oh Jesus, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I guess you can. So let's come up 1 degree here. Macro, let's go to blue here just so we don't separate. So I've got to go 1, 2. 1, oh Jesus! All right, so here we're pushing it right here. So if this holds, right, you could hang on to this. So yeah, I can get the 1, 2. Okay, I can get the impulse here. This can't overlap if this is going to hold. So I'm going to take this up a degree here just so it doesn't get confusing. All right, 1, 2. I'm still seeking the 3. Well, let's think about that. How realistic that is. If that's the 1 and that's the 2, okay, well I can see that. All right, so here's the 2, 6, 1, 8. That flies. All right, so I can get that to play. Maybe. So this is critical here now already. How are we looking down here? Oh shit, I got a different template on here. Let me get. Oh, what do I want? Here, I want this one. Okay, so let's see how we look here. Not a lot to cling to there. So you can see the divergence here, right? So if so potentially we set up here as a contender for the 5 based on the Elliott oscillator divergence there. So you can make that, so you can work with this as a completed impulse. So I can get this. So the 1, 2, 3. Now this is a stretch here, right? That has to hold. So one more. Let's just double check them all. So from the 2 to the 4, if this is going to hold as the 2 to the 4, right? So bad sign. Already broken the 65, but now we go back 1 here. Now we're still okay all the way here. All right, so again, remember, always, right? Algo doesn't give a shit about an Elliott count. That's us trying to tuck in behind them. So if we think dominant to dominant, right? We haven't lost a buy side algo here. Right? They're still in play. So where's the 4 here? So this is implying this has to be higher. So what else can we do? Well, do we have any? This is going to be very steep, so already we're going to have to go to a modifier. So let's shift. Well, that's not going to quite cut it, although that what that tells me is that, so since I'm tagging here the other parallel here, so if I switch to modified shift, that's just a channel, right? So that's going to be even steeper. So I know I don't have anything here with those 3 pivots, but a channel might do it. So if I look here, if this is going to hold, kind of like the connection here, so it's a little hot. Well, there's 2 ways to do it, always 2 ways to do it, and I'll do both just to see which one I think frames the market better here. So if that's going to hold, let's change that color. Let's put that, we'll go to green here. I might leave them both up, actually. It's not going to, so here's our target, right? If we can get there, we got a pretty solid target here that would now allow us to complete this count here. And so backing all the way back out, then we start to build more confidence into the low back here, right? So the idea that we had 1 ABC into the 2, oh, this is the wrong color. It's throwing us off here. So let's go to, let's put that in yellow, and then this has got to go up as well. So we'll put that, there we go. 1, 2. Okay, so 1, 2, 1, 2. I'm looking for that third, 4, 5. Okay, so this has to realize if I'm going to get more excited about the possibility here that I've got my pivot low here for that 4. Remember that very deep 4 out at that larger degree. God, so I'm going to have to go up on that as well. Let's go to that. Okay, so let me change that color. Again, I do this on the fly, but it's easy to get lost if you don't change size and color. Okay, so 1, 2, 1, 2, seeking the 3. This better get bullish here. So is there a trade there? Yeah, I think that is tradable, right? If you're a bull here, so because you've got a relatively low risk. So from here, if we go into the long, even if you bought it right here, here's a reasonable target for the wave count at this degree. I don't think you need to go, well, you could keep it right here at the 50. So there's 5 to 1. I mean, you could be even a little tighter here. The assumption is that the pivot's in, right? That we've got the ABC, and that's a bit of a stretch on that C. I'm down here on a 30-minute. You're digging 5 out of that. Maybe. The basic structure is an ABC, but I don't know that you can pull 5 out of that. Maybe you're down to a 2-3 minute. I don't think it's worth doing that. So is this tradable? Yeah, that's tradable because you've got a really decent risk reward here. This is, if we overlap here, the count falls apart. So you've got nothing but really this potential upside here, or you could, what do we risk? Well, for 5 to 1, I don't hate it. It's tradable. But be realistic about how far that's going to go. Right? So if you're a buyer here and you get this move, don't just be cautious about thinking, oh, okay, that's it, off we go, and we're off to new highs. Right? That is, of course, right. It's always possible, but I wouldn't be counting on that. So think about how that would relate. So back here we start saying, okay, is that realistic to project that? And then we're back here to the 2618 of the length of the 1 for the. Well, this would be sitting right here. So you've got, you might fatten that target just a hair if you want to be particularly ambitious, or you might take, I'd take the whole thing off here, right? If I get that first algo target, I'm out. I'll wait for the retrace to see if I can get the 4 into the 5. That's what I would do, right? So if this comes down here, right? So something like this, again, that's why I want both channels. I'm not sure which one's market's going to respond to, but if I can get that here as the 4, well, then what have I done? Well, potentially all I've done there, let's see if I can get those back in here. Come here. Where's that bigger 3? All right, so could that be my 3? Well, it would be a skinny 3. Let's take these off. All right, so 1, 2, could that be my 3? Huh? Let's just measure it. So length of the, come here. Length of the 1. Let's pull it over. Yeah. Well, here's your high probability zone. So we might need a little more kick there to get something like that. So maybe the upper channel is what catches it. And then I would do the same thing starts to happen here. So now you're back to something like this, and then I would. Now, and you can choose, right? I'll do this sometimes. You'll choose which one of these I want to show. So maybe I don't want to show that one just yet. but I know it's there. So if I do get this move, then, well, shit, right? You can always just draw it again, but that is just something to consider. So 1, 2, if I can get this move, then really I like, I'm taking profit there. If I get the retrace and this sets up, then I'd go again, right? So for this trade here, that here, but then again, be realistic about how far that can go. Here's your high probability zone. So this sets up the next leg of it. If this is going to play through. Right, if we're going to get the market to play Elliott ball here, so that would be a perfect spot for the third relative to that 1, 2. So if that, then we'd be looking for, right, you can pretty much put the whole thing together here. If we get that, then you're looking for your 4. Well, right, so you potentially would have some structure here to hold it somewhere in this zone here for the 4 into the 5. Right, you'd have this move here. So then the whole thing is really starting to cooperate. So right now, what I wouldn't be doing here, this is just me, right? I would let the sells go, right? I'd be looking for the buys because I'm a bull, right? So I want to participate. If I can get these, I want to allow the correction to happen if it does happen. Something along those lines, I'm looking for the buy side. So if I get this move, I would take profit there. Rather than turn around and short it, I will wait for the opportunity to buy it again. All right, same here. I would take profit. If this comes through, I'm looking for the next opportunity to buy. That's me. That's how I would do it. Doesn't mean you should do it that way. Because each one of these potential pivot points, there is the opportunity to sell there. It's just not what I'm looking to do, right? So I want the upside on the buy side. Right? Not that there isn't potential on the downside, not that this couldn't turn into an ABC and we're down challenging some of these old lows here, but that's not what I think is happening. So we shall see, right? This is not easy trading in here. Right? Alts are just, they're stagnant, right? This is not what you would hope for. But is it tradable? Maybe it's just the slow start off of this low. The depth of the retracement, maybe because of that, this is going to take a slower rolling approach rather than the more typical, alts are ripping and that you get the big kind of moves where we're going straight up like that. Here, where it's kind of a meandering, slow, and perhaps we'll stay in this channel and just do it rather slowly here. So I would trade this cautiously unless we get something really substantial that affects what you're thinking. So for example, if we were to get a big kick here in one of these legs here, something that really ripped, well, then you may be rethinking it, but what that's doing is building your confidence in this low. Right, and then this low. So you can see we'd have a series of higher lows, and if we get this, then higher highs. So we have the makings of a new trend here off of this low, right, where clearly the trend was down into that low. So that's what I see there. These would be just little singles, right, all potentially just trying to set up for what would be just, right, if that's gonna, where are you? Are you up here? If that's gonna finish that. Let's go to an hourly here. Then what would we be finishing? Oh shit, I guess that's got to go over there. So 1, 2, 3, 4 again, right? Are we going up to do the 5? Probably not. What we're likely doing here is just finishing the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's what it looks like to me. So if I pull out here to a 2-hour. All right, so that would put us up here. This finishes. Now the whole thing starts to look better. Oh shit, I've kind of lost track. Oh, that would be, that would be, this would be my 3 in here. 3, 4. I kind of lost that 4 in there somewhere. But I guess hopefully you guys get the idea here. Looks to me like we're just trying to seek out the one wave here of the larger degree 5, right? Which gives us this kind of a target up here to go up and challenge those highs. So per what I see here, that just looks like we're struggling to get this one wave established. There's little opportunity in there, but if you want to be patient and let this confirm, it's the next retrace that sets up this one. That would be the one that would be the more conservative approach because you're confirming the push here to give you your 1 of your 5. All right, guys, I was kind of long-winded, but there's a lot to dig into there. It's not easy trading in here. None of the alts are particularly easy right now. All right, so that'll do it for Ethereum. Okay, back to you in